Just like Jesus Christ, the homing missile bug has risen from the dead. That's right, if you're playing the next generation Rust console edition, the homing missile bug is back. But unlike Jesus, it never left. It didn't even go into a cave. It was always here. So let's just break down this ridiculous timeline that's left a lot of people calling for a complete refund on early access when it comes to the console edition of Rust next generation. Now, I will say some of you did get the game for free, so a refund would mean you get absolutely nothing. I know you're bad with math, but 0 times 100%, even if D11 decided to give everything back, is still 0. So, yeah, if they give you coins, that's great, but let's face it, if you got the game for free or the upgrade for free, you probably aren't entitled to anything. But if you did pay, you have a legitimate reason to be mad. So let's go over the timeline here, because D11 has said that they fixed this bug, and it's still there. We're gonna go over this, but it's ridiculous. This thing keeps coming back, and honestly, when I saw, we're gonna get into it. So, next generation console edition Rust releases. It comes out, everything's good, players are generally happy, except not everybody can get into the game, and some PlayStation players still can't get into the game as of the release of this video. But that's not what this rant is about, and people get mad if I get mad about too many things. So, we're mad about homing missiles. Anyways, the game releases, people get into the game, and pretty shortly after getting into the game, trolls do what trolls do best, and they shoot things with weapons that weren't pretty much meant to shoot those things. Someone took a homing missile, shot it into a wall, and realized, hey, these things have turned into a raiding godsend. You don't need to work for raids. You don't really need to do much other than research homing missiles. You hit a few sulfur nodes, and bing, bang, boom, you can get to the core of almost any base in the game. And this is bad because the way Rust works is if you get to the core of someone's base, you take everything. Everything they've worked for, hours, days of work, just disappears in a snap. It's like Thanos came and made it all disappear, except now someone else runs off with it. And unlike normal, where that person actually had to work to get that stuff, they don't really need to work anymore because they use homing missiles. So homing missiles upset everybody. D11 came out and said, we realize this is an issue. We're going to look into it Monday. And the whole time, homing missiles are going off and raiding bases, and the player base is crying about it, saying, D11, can you please just disable homing missiles? Take them out of the game. I made videos about it. Other people made videos about it. It was on the Discord. Everybody was saying, just take them out of the game. Homing missiles aren't that important to the console edition of Rust. D11, in their infinite wisdom, decided to do exactly the opposite of what people were saying. They kept homing missiles in the game, and then when they released an update on Tuesday, not Monday, but that's because it's got to go through some steps with Xbox and PlayStation. And if an update gets done Monday, they're not going to be able to release it Monday. It's going to happen Tuesday. That's just the way these things work. This isn't on D11, right? What they probably should have done is release the game a little bit earlier than Thursday. They should have done it on a Wednesday or Tuesday, and then they'd have a little bit more time to work and get these issues fixed. I understand that Europeans are a lot better than Americans when it comes to vacation time and guarding it with their lives. However, if you don't want to work on the weekends, don't release a game right before the weekends, because then it's a lot harder to patch. But I've mentioned this in videos going back 4 years that some people at D11 have even watched. Anyways, though, they released the game. Bugs happened. They said, we're going to fix it once we get back from this nice, it's England, so it's probably rainy weekend. That was a little cold and probably pretty brutal. But anyways, they got back from their nice weekend in England. That means that it was probably 50 degrees out and everybody froze their nuts off. But hey, it's England. Then again, you never know. Maybe a product manager or two went down to Spain to go skiing. But anyways, getting back to the point. D11 gets back. They find the fix on Monday, which is pretty good. To find a bug fix within a day and release the fix for it, that's not actually a bad turnaround time. So compliments to whoever found that. But unfortunately, they didn't really think things through because Rust players are truly devious people. Anyways, patch comes out on Tuesday. I make a video on Tuesday. Going through the patch notes, I say, I don't think this is going to work. And I laid out exactly why, and it turns out that is exactly the reason that it doesn't work. For a homing missile, they didn't make it so homing missiles don't do damage to structures. They just made it so they lock on to targets, right? So they lock onto the flying target, and they're not supposed to lock onto a base. Now, unfortunately, this doesn't really work that well, because what players are doing is they're locking onto a target, and right before they shoot, they're just flicking their controller over towards a base, and now that homing missile goes right into a base. So it's a little bit harder to raid with homing missiles, but it still actually works. And the thing is, I know what they're thinking. They're thinking, hey, we're just going to make the lock-on period no time at all. So the second you hit the trigger, it just goes after that thing. What's going to happen is players are going to get into a mini copter. They're going to put it between the homing missile launcher and the base. They're going to drop down, and that homing missile is going to hit the base. That's just how it's going to go. That's how Rust players think. I called this out in the video. When I read the patch notes, I didn't even need to test this out. I saw the patch notes, and I said, there is going to be a problem, and there was a problem. This is the thing, like, if I can see it just from reading the description of how the fix was done, someone should be seeing it. And the most frustrating thing about all of this is not an important item. This is like ruining a dinner party because a butter knife was missing, and you don't even have butter at the dinner party, right? Like, what is going on here? I mean, seriously, all you need to do is disable homing missiles or disable homing missile launchers or just take them out of the game until you fix it. There's this whole thing called a beta server with players who play on it to test things out. This would be the perfect time to take homing missiles out of the main game and release it to those beta server players. Or better yet, release it to your QA team, have them stand in front of a building and see if they can shoot a missile into that building and not, like, destroy the building. And I'm talking about in Rust. Obviously, I've got to say that because some of you assholes try to call my work and say I'm not threatening anybody. I'm saying the way that you should test this thing out is just to, like, use the homing missile on a building in Rust and see if it destroys that building. Like, this is an easy one to it's not an easy, it might not be an easy one to fix. It's an easy one to solve by taking homing missiles out, and it's an easy one to test by shooting homing missiles at a wall. This is the thing that bugs me. This isn't hard. This isn't some sort of, like, A, B, backwards, forwards, drop beneath the terrain and then shoot your butt 2 times. This is literally just a point and a click test. It's frustrating for me. The reason I'm making this rant is because this is so testable. The things that have happened after the bug was discovered are so predictable, and yet somehow, somewhere, people aren't predicting that this is going to happen. And I know I have an 87 IQ, which means I am room temperature in America, where we like to keep the temperature low. But it's just like, I don't know how to describe it. Like, I just don't, I'm frustrated with the situation because the solution is right there, staring me in the face. It's staring everybody in the face. People are talking about it on Discord. People are talking about it in comment sections. People are talking about the solution, and they're all right. But for some reason, D11 keeps trying to go the hard way to solve this and fix it so that we get homing missiles, but nobody wants homing missiles. We want a game where our bases don't get raided by homing missiles. And the easiest way to solve that is to take homing missiles out of the game. Homing missiles aren't something that we need. It's not something that anybody wanted. Most people can't even fly mini copters yet. Get those things out of the game. Let people figure out how mini copters work. Then you can bring them back in later to counter mini copters once people actually figure out how to fly them. Right now, the most dangerous thing about a mini copter is the fact that it could fall into you. Like, I know I'm being, like, again, if you're on the dev team and you're listening to this, part of this rant is just to have fun with it, right? Like, part of this is to have fun with it, and part of it is just to be like, I don't know how this happens. I understand how the dev process works. I understand that sometimes you get an SLA that's just saying, like, fix this bug and we want to keep homing missiles in. Whoever has decided to keep homing missiles in, go on the Discord. People that are listening to this video, go on the Discord and say we don't want homing missiles. If you're listening to this video and you work at D11, just see how many people are talking about how much they don't want homing missiles. And then just implement something that takes away homing missiles. The game is about to come out of early access, and this is the perfect time for you to do the right thing. Take homing missiles out and ensure that the game actually has a pretty good release, because honestly, this is the only bug. This is the thing, like, you have a star specimen here. There's just one little flick of dirt that you need to get away from it, and that's all you've got to do. That's all you've got to do. Like, just remove homing missiles, please. If you can't fix it, even if you think you can fix it, just remove homing missiles. Let's be done with this. Let's have a good wipe, and let's not use homing missiles until, well, we get to test them in the beta server. Thank you for watching. If you can, like, just ping the 11 and tell them to get rid of homing missiles. I'm not saying brigade or anything like that. Just let them know that we don't need homing missiles. Comment down below saying you don't care about homing missiles. Let them know homing missiles need to go home and rest for this wipe.